Help me hit 1,000 subscribers, support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone, thank you. I never believed silence could bruise a person until the day Adrian Pierce walked past me as if I were a stranger carved out of air. And perhaps, in that moment, I was. It started on a cold November afternoon, the kind that softened the edges of the world with pale light and drifting fog. I had decided, foolishly, stubbornly, that I would test Adrian's feelings for me. Not with honesty. Not with vulnerability. But with something childish and desperate, jealousy. Looking back, I doubt I even understood what I was trying to prove. Maybe I wanted reassurance that he cared as deeply as I pretended not to. Maybe I wanted proof that I mattered. Or maybe I simply wanted to feel chosen. The cafe on Riverstone Street buzzed with its usual weekend warmth, soft chatter, cups clinking, the scent of cinnamon and burnt sugar drifting between tables. I had chosen a seat near the front, perfectly placed for Adrian to see me the moment he walked in for his usual afternoon coffee. I sat across from Luca Hale, a charming colleague who had agreed, far too eagerly, to help me accidentally get noticed. He leaned closer, laughing at something I barely heard. I tilted my head, pretending to be enchanted by whatever he was saying. I even placed my hand lightly on his sleeve, knowing Adrian would see the gesture instantly if he cared enough to look. My heart raced with anticipation, nerves twisting into tight, trembling coils. Then Adrian walked in. Tall, with that quiet confidence wrapped around him like a second skin, dark hair brushing the collar of his coat, he looked exactly as he always did, calm, composed, unreadable. His eyes scanned the room out of habit, landing on every detail with gentle precision. And then they found me. For a heartbeat, something flickered in his gaze, recognition, maybe surprise. I couldn't tell. It wasn't enough to reassure me, but it wasn't nothing. I breathed in, waiting for the moment he would frown, hesitate, walk over, demand to know why I was leaning in so close to another man. But he didn't. His eyes moved on. As if I were a coat rack. A wall. A blur of color sitting by the window. He stepped past my table without a pause, without a second glance, without the slightest sign that my existence disrupted even a fraction of his world. It felt like being dipped in cold water. I forced a smile at Luca, my fingers stiffening where they touched his sleeve. I could no longer hear anything he said. My heartbeat drowned it all out. The humiliation was sharp, metallic, tasting like regret on my tongue. A minute later, Adrian took his coffee to go. He never did that. He always stayed. He always asked if I'd eaten. He always lingered. Not today. He walked out into the crisp November air, shoulders relaxed, steps steady, not once bothering to look back. And just like that, my stupid little plan collapsed into dust. When I finally left the cafe, the fog outside had thickened, swallowing the edges of the street. My breath trembled out in uneven clouds. I was halfway down the block when I heard someone call my name. Marina? I turned to see Luca jogging after me, coat unbuttoned, hair disheveled. You okay? You rushed out pretty fast. I managed a strained smile. I'm fine. Really? He hesitated. It's because of Adrian, isn't it? My silence was answer enough. Look, he said gently, maybe he didn't see. He saw, I whispered. And that was the worst part. Adrian saw. And still, he walked away. That night, I replayed the moment 100 times. The way his gaze brushed over me. The way he stayed detached, calm, distant. It hurt in a strange, unfamiliar way, like losing something I never had the right to claim. I told myself I didn't care. I told myself jealousy games were stupid anyway. I told myself he probably wasn't worth the effort. But none of those lies settled in my chest. Because the truth, the one I didn't want to face, was softer and far more painful. I wanted him to care. And he didn't. Or so I believed. What I didn't know then, what I would only uncover later, was that Adrian's silence held a story of its own. A story I had never asked about. A story I wasn't prepared for. A story that would unravel everything I thought I knew about him and about myself. The next morning carried the heaviness of unfinished thoughts. I arrived at work with a hollow feeling, unsure if facing him would make things better or infinitely worse. Adrian worked in the same design firm, 2 floors above mine. Our paths crossed often enough for my stomach to tighten every time the elevator chimed. When I stepped into the lobby, I expected the usual rush of voices, the chaotic shuffle of coworkers clutching coffees and folders. Instead, the space felt strangely muted, as if the world had lowered its volume just for me. And there he was. Adrian stood near the elevator, coat draped over his arm, eyes focused on something distant. The morning sun spilled through the glass doors behind him, outlining him in soft gold. He looked peaceful, untouched by yesterday's moment that had haunted me all night. He didn't notice me until I was almost beside him. "Morning," he said with a gentle nod. Not cold. Not distant. Just normal. Painfully normal. "Morning," I echoed, trying to keep my voice steady. The elevator arrived with a soft chime. We stepped inside, the doors sliding shut behind us. The air hummed quietly, filled with unspoken words and thin tension. I knew I should apologize. Or explain. Or at least say something. But all I managed was silence. Then Adrian spoke. "You seemed different yesterday," he said, watching the numbers rise. I didn't want to intrude. It felt like a crack opening in the floor beneath me. "You didn't intrude," I replied quickly. "You walked right past me." He turned slightly, studying me. His gaze was soft, not dismissive, not indifferent. Just searching. "I wasn't sure I had the right," he said quietly. The doors opened. A few people entered, breaking the fragile moment between us. We moved back, giving them space. When the elevator reached his floor, he stepped out and paused, turning to me once more. "For what it's worth," he added, "I did notice." Then the doors closed, cutting the world in half. Those 3 words, "I did notice," looped through my mind all day, threading themselves around my thoughts like ribbon. But they didn't erase the sting of yesterday. Nor did they explain his reaction. By afternoon, I couldn't take the uncertainty anymore. I found him in the small office kitchen, pouring tea with slow, careful movements. His presence always carried a kind of stillness that unsettled and comforted me at the same time. "Adrian," I said softly. He looked up. "Marina. Can we talk?" He nodded and set his mug aside. We walked toward the quiet corner near the windows, sunlight spilling across the floor in warm stripes. I inhaled slowly. "About yesterday. I shouldn't have acted like that. I was trying to get a reaction out of you. A stupid one." He didn't interrupt. Didn't look judgmental. Just listened. "I thought you'd notice. Or care. I don't know." It was childish. A long silence followed. Adrian's expression shifted, not surprised, but something more like regret. "I cared," he said. My breath caught. "Then why did you walk away?" His jaw tightened for a moment. A flicker of something, hurt, maybe, crossed his eyes. "Because I didn't want to misread the situation again." "Again?" He let out a slow breath. "Last year, when I first started here. I liked someone who didn't feel the same. I thought every smile meant something. Every conversation. Every small kindness." His voice softened. "I don't chase anymore. I don't assume. I don't let myself believe I matter to someone unless they say it outright." My chest tightened. He wasn't indifferent, he was protecting himself. "And when I saw you with him," he continued quietly, "you looked happy. Relaxed. I didn't want to be the person who interrupts that. Or invents meaning where there isn't any." A sharp ache filled my throat. I had been so sure he didn't care, but he cared so much he didn't trust himself to show it. "I wasn't happy," I whispered. "I was pretending. That's what worried me." He gave a fragile smile. People only pretend when they're unsure. I didn't know when the distance between us closed, but suddenly it felt as though the space grew warmer, softer, charged with something fragile. Adrian, I said quietly, you didn't misread anything. His eyes lifted slowly to mine, and something unspoken passed between us, hope, tentative and trembling. But he stepped back a little, voice gentle. I don't want to be an experiment, Marina. Not jealousy, not guessing games, just honesty. The truth settled like a weight in my chest. Heavy. Real. Unavoidable. I'm sorry, I said. For yesterday. For doing something so unfair. You didn't deserve that. His expression softened. Thank you. That evening, the office air turned dusky, lights dimming as people filtered out. I walked toward the exit, and for the first time in days, my heart felt steady, not from certainty, but from clarity. As I stepped outside, the sky painted itself in shades of lavender and gold. And in that moment, I understood something. Jealousy brings attention. Honesty brings connection. But vulnerability, real vulnerability, is what opens doors you never knew existed. I didn't know where Adrian and I stood after today. I didn't know if this fragile beginning would lead somewhere or fade quietly into memory. But I knew this. Some people don't chase because they don't care. And some don't chase because they've been hurt by caring too much. And the only way to reach someone like that is to walk toward them without games, without tests, without fear. Just honesty. Just truth. Just two people choosing each other with open eyes. Whatever happened next, whatever story waited beyond this moment, it would begin with that.